Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Dexter Original Sin on Paramount Plus with Showtime. They dropped a pair of episodes this week, episode 2, Kid in a Candy Store, and episode 3, Miami Vice. It's funny because in last week's video, I said it would have been more strategic to drop a pair of episodes for the premiere to get us all more vested into this story, which I'm still not convinced we actually need. However, I don't know if that strategy did pay off, at least for me. Are there elements to the show I'm enjoying? Yes, there certainly are. Is the nostalgia off the charts? It is. Are a lot of these actors doing a great job playing the roles of characters who we're already familiar with? Yes, they certainly are. And then, of course, Sarah Michelle Gellar has been added as a new character we didn't have back in the original Dexter. It was really nice to see more of her in this as well, along with the introduction of LaGuardia, played by Christina Milian. But in the name of authenticity, which I think is of the utmost importance, especially when doing reviews, I'll be honest, this is probably more of a background show for me. Am I going to keep watching and keep covering it? Absolutely. I'm a completionist, especially when it comes to IP that I've already been invested in before. I watched the original Dexter. I watched Dexter New Blood. I'm actually quite excited for Dexter Resurrection, even though I'm still not sure how Dexter survived getting shot by his son in that series, but doesn't matter. I'll suspend my disbelief. It's fine. So let's focus on some of the things that I did really enjoy from these episodes. First of all, last week, one thing I mentioned was that there was such a big opportunity to be infusing in more 90s music, more 90s vibes. We got that right off the bat in episode 2. New Kids on the Block, baby, step by step. It was playing in the background. New Kids on the Block was one of the first concerts I went to. And as soon as I heard that playing, I said, okay, here we are. We are in the 90s. But what was interesting is we got so many 90s mentions within 1 minute of each other. I started thinking, is there a requisite number of 90s references they need to make in each episode to remind us that we're in the 90s? Because along with the New Kids on the Block step by step, references to Orange Julius, Scrooge McDuck, Karate Kid, Have Mercy, all within literally 1 minute of each other at the beginning of that episode. I love the 90s. I'm a 90s kid. I'm here for it. I will absorb all of the 90s nostalgia, and I hope they keep it coming, especially soundtrack-wise. There's something to be said for using these nostalgic songs along with the nostalgia of that time, and I love to hear New Kids on the Block. One of the things this show has done the best is the casting. These actors are doing a phenomenal job bringing these characters we're already familiar with to life. And again, Sarah Michelle Gellar, a character we didn't have in the original Dexter, really great to see more of her on our screens. Christian Slater as Harry, and in the Harry flashbacks, I am really enjoying those because that's something we didn't get a lot of. Of course, we know that Dexter's mom was killed. He and his brother were left in the shipping container, that Harry adopts Dexter. So we know where it is going, but that's the part where I'm more excited for. How are we going to get there? Things have escalated very fast with Dexter and his killings. I mean, we're a few episodes in. He's already got 2 bodies under his belt. I guess I expected for this metamorphosis of him into a killer would maybe take a little bit longer, which is funny because sometimes I complain that things take too long. So maybe, I don't know, there's no pleasing me, but I did enjoy the disposal method that he is using, of course, before he gets a boat. Seeing those dismembered body parts floating in the alligator water there, I enjoyed that quite a bit. At the end of the 3rd episode, however, we did see one of the arms float up to the surface, which normally would make me think, oh no, Dexter's going to be in trouble. We know he won't because he never gets revealed to be a serial killer until the end of Dexter. What will that mean? Will this mean that he has to work on framing somebody with his new position as an intern? Probably. That would make the most sense. Is his alligator disposal spot viable to keep going? Probably not if this arm does end up getting discovered. There is something about just seeing a head getting tossed into water, though. There were some visuals I really appreciated here, and that was one of them. And back to the casting again. Molly Brown as Deb. She could not be playing that part better. I buy all of these characters in these roles. Amazing casting by John Papsidera. Everything about Deb's character, even as a teenager, everything rings true to the Deb we know in the original Dexter. Her mannerisms, her attitude, the word choice, the way she speaks to her brother. I have never seen a more Deb than Deb herself. What would be funny is if, for some reason, Patrick Gibson and Molly Brown started dating, because as we know, Michael C. Hall and Jennifer Carpenter, who played Deb, were actually married in real life while shooting the show. They did separate eventually, but imagine if that cycle played itself out. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Let's talk about Dexter for a second, because not only is he just this natural blood spatter analysis person before he even really steps into a formal role in that job, he also just naturally knows how to analyze bullets. Yes, of course, he's going to medical school, so he does have some of that skills and training, but also he knows how to just mix up cocaine. He even says, "Oh, well, I went to medical school," to Deb, because she's like, "How do you know how to do this, brother?" He just seems to be too good at what he's doing a little bit too soon. Some of these actions he's taking, though, are also pretty visually interesting. I will say the kill with Tony when he taped him up and started throwing highlight balls at him is pretty clever. So there are elements to the show that I am appreciating. Again, the nostalgia of the 90s, the throwbacks to the Dexter show in general. It is like we are immersed in Dexter, just given the strong casting. I think Christian Slater is blowing it out of the water as Harry. His story is more interesting to me than Dexter's at this point. We know eventually Harry does commit suicide because he watches Dexter dismember a body. So that journey for me is more interesting than Dexter's journey as a killer, because we know where that ends up, but we didn't have quite as much Harry context in the original Dexter. Those flashbacks where we're seeing Laura going undercover, we saw the aerial view of the containers that eventually she will end up dead in. We will get to see it in real time playing out with the level of guilt Harry has over that. Him adopting Dexter. This flashback story does have me compelled. So there are some good things happening here. As I mentioned, it's been relegated to more of a background show for me. I'm really curious. I've seen mixed reactions about this. I've seen people who love Patrick Gibson as the new Dexter and people not so much. He's okay as Dexter to me. I like Patrick Gibson, love him from the OA, which everybody should watch on Netflix, by the way. But you know who I'm not liking, who I've already mentioned? Patrick Dempsey in this role of this douchebag cop guy, especially the way he treated LaGuardia. You can tell he's just a woman hater, and I guess was more acceptable back in the 90s. I just don't buy Patrick Dempsey in this role for some reason. Everybody else, every other character, job well done. Masuka, Titty Tuesdays. I mean, you could not get more Masuka from that. When he's behind his coworker, kind of doing the dry humping situation, very Masuka. The casting, hats off to John Papsidera once again. This has really been the strongest part of the show for me, is the casting. The story's been okay. I am more vested in these flashbacks. I don't have a lot to say about these episodes. So this is a shorter reaction and review than normal, especially for a pair of episodes, but that does speak to my interest level in the show. I'm curious what everybody else thinks. Are you loving it? Are you hating it? Are you eagle-eyed paying attention to every single scene? Or are you more like me, where maybe you're folding some laundry, doing some chores, cooking, etc. while you're watching? I really want to know. Am I off base? And I'm asking all of you, where do you rank this within the Dexterverse? We've got 3 so far, and it is still early, so there's still time. I'm ranking it right now. Obviously, I'm going original Dexter, and then I guess I would go New Blood, and then I'm going this one. I'm optimistic that when Dexter Resurrection comes back with Michael C. Hall, that might end up being my number 2. To be determined, though. Now, if you're looking for some other shows to watch, I did just drop my top 10 shows of 2024 along with my special guest, Craig Elston. Definitely check that out if you're looking for some shows to binge over the holidays. I especially recommend Black Doves, which I dropped a whole season 1 review for. Love that show. Quintessential December watch. So if there's one show you add to your watch list this month, if you've not watched it already, It's got to be Black Doves. And if you're interested in watching me make a complete fool of myself singing the 12 Days of Binge Miss about the shows I watched and enjoyed this year, do not miss that video either. And be sure you give it a thumbs up. I'm not a singer, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll be back next week to cover the next episode of Dexter. We'll see where it lands with me. Media Melanie, clicking off.